This might just seem like a photo of a family on vacation, right? What is intriguing is that among the relaxed smiles stands the 14-year-old boy who would later become known as Osama bin Laden. The photo hides the future leader of one of the world's most feared terrorist organizations, responsible for devastating attacks, including the tragic September 11th. This photo seems to be just a class memory from 1998, but the young man in the back is none other than Kim Jong-un, the future leader and dictator of North Korea. At the time, he was studying at an elite school in Switzerland under a false identity, living among classmates who were unaware of his destiny as one of the world's most controversial political figures. This may seem like just a regular classroom photo from the late 19th century, but it holds an astonishing detail. Among the students, seated in the middle row, is Adolf Hitler as a child, while he attended school in Braunau, Austria. Years later, he would become one of the most infamous leaders in history. This scene might look like just an ordinary movie screening, but this photo shows captured Nazi soldiers being forced to watch footage of the atrocities committed in concentration camps. Organized by the Allies after World War II, the screening aimed to confront them with the brutal truth of the regime they defended. At first glance, this seems like just a photo of a baseball team from 1911, but the truth is much darker. These men were prisoners on death row at Wyoming State Penitentiary, and their lives depended on their performance on the field. Each victory postponed their executions, turning the game into a desperate fight for survival. The more games they won, the more time they had to live. At first, this seems like just a photo of a group of wartime volunteers, but at the center is Mahatma Gandhi, then a young lawyer leading the Natal Indian Ambulance Corps during the Zulu Rebellion in South Africa in 1906. Long before becoming a symbol of peaceful resistance, Gandhi was already demonstrating his commitment to service and justice. This might just look like a mother carrying her baby, but the unsettling truth is that this image was taken in a human zoo in Paris, France, in the year 1890. These locations displayed people of different ethnicities as attractions, reinforcing racist theories of the time, such as creating a false narrative of superiority between whites and blacks, a cruel and dehumanizing practice rooted in European colonialism. At first glance, this seems like just a photo of a smiling man holding a lunchbox, but the truth is even more impactful. This man is Harold Agnew, and in his hands is the core of the Fat Man bomb, which would devastate Nagasaki in 1945. A moment of normalcy amidst one of the most devastating events in history. Often deemed comical, this image reveals an unusual secret. Hitler, known for his commanding oratory, obsessively practiced his speeches. He posed for his personal photographer, Heinrich Hoffmann, to ensure his gestures appeared authoritative. Embarrassed by these photos, Hitler ordered their destruction, but Hoffmann secretly preserved them, believing they held historical value. Among a sea of raised arms in a Nazi salute, one man stands firm with his arms crossed. This photo, taken in 1936, captures August Landmesser, who defied the regime by refusing to conform. A silent act of courage during a time of forced obedience. These images capture the last known moments of young explorer Michael Rockefeller, who disappeared in 1961 during his research in New Guinea. He was interacting with members of a local tribe, but grim reports suggest that he was captured and consumed by the natives as part of a ritual. But a few years after his disappearance, this intriguing photo emerged, showing a white man among members of a tribe in New Guinea. Many believe it could be Michael, kept as a prisoner or assimilated by the natives. The photo fueled theories about his fate, but it remains a mystery to this day whether he actually survived. Just a man caught off guard in a photo? Not exactly. This man is Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister and Adolf Hitler's right-hand man. The reason for the startled expression? He had just realized that the photographer taking this picture was Jewish. In that instant, the discomfort and coldness of one of the most prominent propagandists of the Nazi regime overtook the scene. This image depicts what seems like a regular classroom. However, George McLaurin, the first African American admitted to the University of Oklahoma in 1948, is forced to sit apart from his white classmates. His presence broke racial barriers in education and marked a milestone for equality. This photo appears to show just a man pouring water into a pool, but it hides a cruel act. The motel manager, Jimmy Brock, poured acid into the water where black and white people were bathing together in a bold protest against racial segregation. White hotel customers had decided to defy racist laws by inviting black individuals to join them in the pool, which deeply angered Jimmy to the point of committing such an inhumane act. Is this just a beautiful painting of Munich? Not exactly. This piece was created and painted by Adolf Hitler in 1914, before he joined the army during the First World War. At the time, he was attempting to live as an artist, selling watercolors like this one to make a living. This little-known record contrasts sharply with the dark role he would later play in history, as we all know. This might appear to be just a man in a wheelchair, but it conceals a somber secret. This is the last image of Vladimir Lenin, captured after he suffered 3 strokes that left him mute and incapacitated. 3 days later, he passed away. This appears to be just an ordinary photo of a mother with her young son, but it hides a grim mystery. At age 3, this boy witnessed his father kill his mother and told police, "Daddy shot Mommy." But no one believed him. 21 years later, he discovered his mother's body buried in the backyard, confirming the horrifying truth he had known as a child. Aaron, now an adult, spoke about the event. Children see everything that's happening. I'm sure Michael didn't think I was watching at 3.5, but it's clear now I saw everything that happened that night. His words came 21 years after he witnessed his mother's murder, confirming what he had always said. At first glance, this image looks like a posed photo of a frightened young girl, but the dark secret lies behind the camera. In 1990, Regina K. Walters, aged 14, was captured by Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer. She and her boyfriend had been hitchhiking when they fell into the hands of one of America's most sadistic murderers. This photo was taken moments before he ended her life. This seemingly ordinary elevator photo hides a chilling mystery. Captured in 2013, it shows Elisa Lam exhibiting erratic behavior just hours before disappearing. Days later, her body was discovered in the hotel's water tank after guests complained about the water's taste and smell. The circumstances of her death remain unexplained to this day. At first glance, this photo seems to depict a leader visiting a wounded soldier. However, the man with a frost-bitten face is trying to salute Adolf Hitler, highlighting his devotion to the Nazi regime despite his severe injuries. Hitler acknowledged the soldier's effort, who, even in excruciating pain, tried to pay his respects. This collection of rings may seem ordinary at first glance, but it holds a harrowing story. These thousands of wedding rings were stripped from Holocaust victims by the Nazis. The gold, a symbol of love and unity, was melted down to fund the very regime that enslaved and exterminated them. This photo appears to show a group of military officers and government officials enjoying a day off, laughing and posing for the camera. However, these individuals were the staff of Auschwitz, one of history's deadliest concentration camps. They smiled after completing their shifts overseeing torture, executions, and genocide, raising the question, how could they laugh while committing such atrocities? Behind this seemingly cheerful clown performing at a party lies John Wayne Gacy, a serial killer responsible for 33 murders. He lured young men into his home under false pretenses, burying them in his basement. While dressed as Pogo the Clown, he concealed his horrifying crimes while participating in community events as a seemingly kind entertainer. In another instance, as Pogo the Clown, Gacy is seen at a party interacting with children, pretending to be a kind-hearted clown. His performance, worthy of an Oscar, masked the true monster behind the costume. Here is a seemingly normal photo of a classroom in 1999, but in the far left corner stand Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Months later, they would commit the Columbine High School massacre, taking at least 13 lives in one of the most tragic school shootings in U.S. history. Although it may seem like just a scene from a popular 1970s dating show, this photo harbors a chilling secret. The man in the brown suit is actually Rodney Alcala, a serial killer who had already committed numerous crimes before his appearance on The Dating Game. An astonishing detail is that the woman who won a date with him ultimately declined, a decision that likely saved her life years later. This image appears to show a happy family moment, but it hides a macabre story. The man in the yellow sweater, John Edward Robinson, was a serial killer who had murdered the mother of the baby he is holding, Tiffany Stassi, just the day before. He deceived his own brother by giving the baby to him as adopted. The truth came to light 15 years later, exposing his horrifying crimes. This might seem like just a photo from a gym, but it was taken aboard the Titanic shortly before its fateful sinking. Here, two men are seen posing while exercising, unaware that this would likely be their last photograph and also their last workout. This photo appears to show only a few soldiers playing ball, but it involves something extraordinary. Here, German, French, and British soldiers participated in a spontaneous ceasefire during Christmas. Without any military orders, they emerged from their trenches to socialize, sing songs, and even play soccer together. In this rare moment of humanity amidst war, soldiers exchanged makeshift gifts and shared stories. After this brief instant of peace, each side returned to their trenches to resume combat. A unique episode, to say the least. This image shows Bill Clinton posing with his assistant Monica Lewinsky in an apparently innocent moment. However, it would later ignite one of the biggest political scandals of the 1990s when their relationship was revealed in 1998. This might look like just an elegant young man posing in a room, but it's Stephen Hawking before he developed amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. Diagnosed at 21, he defied all odds to become one of the most brilliant scientists in history. In this image, John Lennon is seen signing what would be his last autograph. The fan beside him, Mark David Chapman, who appeared to be just another admirer, would assassinate him only 8 hours later, on December 8, 1980, in front of the Dakota Building in New York City. This photo captured a moment of apparent normalcy before a tragedy that shocked the world. For those unfamiliar with the story, this seems like just a photo of a father with his daughter in a garden. However, this is Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer. Despite appearing to be a caring father and upstanding citizen in this photo, he was a serial killer responsible for a series of brutal murders, living a double life that shocked the world when revealed. This was the disturbing and grotesque mask worn by Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, during his attacks. Behind his image as a family man and exemplary citizen, he used this chilling object as part of his crimes. At first glance, this looks like just a common family photo, but it holds a dark secret. In the early hours of 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his parents and 4 siblings while they slept in their home in Amityville, New York. The case shocked the world, fueling legends of hauntings and inspiring, terrifying stories that have marked popular culture for decades. This image might look like an innocent moment of a child interacting with a police officer, but her clothing reveals a darker truth. The girl is wearing the uniform of the Ku Klux Klan during a protest in Gainesville in 1992. She approached the black officer and touched his shield, symbolizing the stark contrast between her innocence and the Klan's hateful ideology. This scene seems like something out of a movie or a reenactment, but it is much darker. It shows a Soviet spy about to be executed and left in the snow during the Second World War. The most disturbing detail is the relaxed smile on the spy's face, who seems to be amused by the situation, a behavior that even puzzled his captors. Adolf Hitler and his entourage walked near the Eiffel Tower in Paris on June 23, 1940, shortly after the Nazi occupation of France. Obsessed with surpassing Paris's grandeur, Hitler meticulously planned this moment to symbolize Nazi dominance over Europe. This photo captures a shocking event, a Nazi rally on American soil attended by 20,000 people. Taken at Madison Square Garden in 1939, the gathering was organized by the German-American Bund, mixing American symbols with Nazi propaganda. At first glance, this appears to show a soldier helping a child, but it hides a striking secret. The German soldier is defying direct orders to help the boy cross the newly built Berlin Wall, a rare act of humanity during the Cold War. This photo appears to capture a Croatian soldier taking a break during the war, but the haunting message written on the wall behind him reads, "God, if I die young, send me to heaven. I have already been to hell." What seems like an ordinary moment of a father with his son is anything but. This 1960 image shows Martin Luther King Jr. removing a burned cross from his yard in Atlanta, a hateful act by the Ku Klux Klan as King led the fight for civil rights in the U.S. Although this water fountain seems ordinary, it was marked colored and reserved exclusively for black individuals during the Jim Crow era. Such signs institutionalized racial segregation in public spaces, reinforcing discrimination across the United States. Although this looks like a carefree selfie of 3 friends having fun, it actually marked the tragic end of their lives just seconds later. The bright light in the background was an oncoming train, and they were unable to escape in time. This image captures their last moments, adding a haunting layer to their smiles. These individuals in the photo are survivors of the 1972 Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 crash in the Andes. Despite their smiles, the photo conceals a harrowing secret. Stranded for weeks in extreme conditions, they resorted to desperate measures for survival. Surrounding them are remnants of the plane and evidence of their unimaginable ordeal. A cheerful selfie in nature, yet this is one of the last photos of Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, 2 Dutch tourists who disappeared mysteriously while hiking the El Pianista Trail in Panama in April 2014. Months later, their belongings and remains were found, but what truly happened to them in the jungle remains a haunting mystery. This photo seems to capture a man innocently playing with children on a sunny day, projecting the image of a perfect neighbor. However, the man is Ted Bundy, one of history's most notorious serial killers. Known for his charisma and trustworthiness, Bundy used these qualities to lure his victims. When caught, he confessed to more than 30 murders. What seems like a simple X-ray hides a grim story. This photo, taken in Kimberley, South Africa, shows a diamond mine worker being X-rayed at the end of each shift. The purpose was not their health, but to check that they were not smuggling diamonds inside their bodies, a heavy portrait of mistrust. What might just seem like a smiling soldier actually reveals something much deeper. The forced smile and empty gaze suggest that this soldier from World War I may actually be in a state of shock, a common reaction to the extreme trauma experienced in the trenches. This photo offers a dark glimpse into the invisible scars left by such circumstances. This could just seem like a photo of a soldier in a narrow tunnel. However, it shows an American tunnel rat during the Vietnam War, exploring underground systems used by the Viet Cong. These spaces were booby-trapped and extremely dangerous, where traps or enemies could be lurking, making each step a gamble with life. This image might seem like just a shadow on concrete steps, but it marks one of the most devastating moments in history. When the atomic bomb struck Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, the intense heat etched silhouettes where people blocked the thermal rays. This shadow, left by someone vaporized in the blast, is a haunting testament to nuclear destruction. At first glance, this looks like a cute Mickey Mouse mask, but in reality, it was created in 1942 during World War II to protect children from poisonous gas attacks. The design aimed to ease trauma and encourage children to wear the mask during dangerous moments. In this image, Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, appears in an apparently normal moment, helping his daughter decorate the Christmas tree. The contrast between his peaceful family life and the brutal crimes he committed in secret makes this photo even more disturbing. At first glance, this might seem like just a tranquil photo of a busy beach. However, it was taken moments before a giant wave struck the coast during the devastating 2004 tsunami that ravaged Southeast Asia. The carefree beachgoers had not yet realized the impending disaster, making this image a chilling record of calm before chaos. This might just seem like a patriotic aerial display, but this photo hides a tragedy. In 2019, during a show in Colombia, 2 soldiers carrying the national flag were suspended by a rope that broke. The captured moment shows their final salute before falling. In this photo, Stalin appears to be reflecting in silence, a rare moment of vulnerability. The photo was taken shortly after he received the news of the loss of Kyiv to Nazi forces during the Second World War. This moment captures the leader, typically ruthless, confronted with the harsh reality of a defeat. This photo depicts the serenity of an imperial family, but hides a dark secret. Here are the Romanovs, the last Tsarist family of Russia, in one of their final photos before their tragic execution. Only 2 years after this image was taken, they were brutally murdered by the Bolsheviks, ending centuries of Russian monarchy. This image might just capture a regular day at the zoo, but the sign at the entrance reveals something impactful. No white people allowed in the zoo today. Taken during the civil rights movement in the United States, this practice, known as Black Day, was a symbolic response to racial segregation, temporarily reversing the rules to highlight the injustices experienced by black people. At first glance, this image appears to be a casual photo of 2 high school students. However, the young man standing is Jeffrey Dahmer, who would later become one of the most notorious serial killers in history. During this time, Dahmer already exhibited strange behaviors that went unnoticed by many, hiding the disturbed mind that would shock the world years later. This might just seem like an old soda bottle, but it's one of the first containers of Coca-Cola, sold in 1894. The secret? Each glass contained between 5 and 9 milligrams of cocaine, a common ingredient in the original formula. Created in 1886, Coca-Cola only began being commercially bottled in 1899, and the cocaine was removed from the formula in 1903. Katharina Detzel, institutionalized in an asylum in 1910, created this disturbing figure using straw from her mattress. The creation, with its blank face and awkward body, possesses a supernatural and eerie air that reflected her mental state in the asylum. This seems like a chaotic moment during a marathon, but it captures a pivotal event. Catherine Switzer, the first woman officially registered in the Boston Marathon, faced hostility from organizers who tried to remove her by force in 1967. Undeterred, she finished the race, paving the way for women in competitive sports. This seemingly ordinary image hides a tragic tale of isolation. Jeannie, a child kept bound and isolated for years, was discovered at age 13, unable to speak due to extreme neglect. Though efforts were made to teach her, her brain had missed the critical period for learning language. She is believed to live in a care facility today, marked by her haunting past. This image shows a Chinese woman whose feet were bound from childhood, a practice known as lotus feet. Common until the early 20th century, this tradition symbolized status and beauty, but caused extreme deformities and suffering. The painful process shaped the feet into a small, idealized form, leaving lifelong physical marks. Moreover, the process was irreversible. At first glance, this looks like a random collection of objects, but it's actually the stomach contents of a psychiatric patient suffering from pica, a disorder that compelled him to eat non-food items like nails and screws. The accumulation of these objects ultimately led to his death, exposing the severity of this rare psychological condition. This photo might seem like a simple early career Beatles performance, but holds a lesser-known secret. Before their fame, the band had Pete Best, a talented drummer whose looks drew too much attention for the group's image. Allegedly replaced due to dynamics, some believe his attractiveness was a problem. While the Beatles rose to global stardom, Pete lived a quiet life, full of what-ifs. This photo seems disturbing at first glance, but hides an even more chilling story. Taken in 1890 in Germany, it shows a girl in a psychiatric institution, restrained in a crucifix-like position as part of a supposed treatment for mental illness. Practices like these, now seen as barbaric, were once considered therapeutic in the 19th century. Could this be a simple photo of a 5-year-old girl in a hospital? In reality, this is Lena Medina, the youngest mother in history. In 1939, at just 5 years old, she gave birth to a healthy boy, shocking the medical world. Her case, still shrouded in mystery, revealed an extremely rare condition of precocious puberty, marking it as one of the most extraordinary cases. This might just seem like a typical photo of someone enjoying nature during a hike. However, it's one of the last images of Dalen Pua, who mysteriously disappeared after taking this photo. A chilling detail? A figure resembling a man can be seen in the trees behind him, appearing to follow. Dalen vanished and was never found. At first glance, this looks like a photo of divers exploring the waters of Queensland. However, there's something eerie about the image. In the background lies the body of Tina Watson, who drowned while diving during her honeymoon at the wreck of the SS Yongala. Her husband, Gabe Watson, claimed he couldn't save her, but the circumstances led to suspicions of a premeditated murder. Unknowingly, this family was walking toward their death in a gas chamber during the Holocaust. The image, taken at Auschwitz concentration camp, captured the moment of silence and innocence before a tragic fate that even they did not know was about to unfold. At first glance, this image already seems unusual, but it shows one of the most disturbing experiments in Soviet history. In 1954, a scientist in pursuit of medical advancement created this two-headed dog through a transplant. The animal survived briefly in evident torment, representing the fine line between science and medical ethics. This might just look like a wall with a hastily written message, but the secret behind it is terrifying. In 1945, after murdering Frances Brown, William Hirons, known as the Lipstick Killer, left these words on the wall. "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." The message, written with the victim's lipstick, revealed the disturbed mind of the 17-year-old in one of history's most chilling crime records. A photo of a couple walking on the beach in 1954? In reality, this moment was captured shortly after a tragedy. The couple's 19-month-old son had just been swept away by the waves at Hermosa Beach, California, leaving them devastated as they tried to process the event. The photo immortalized their grief. This photo appears to capture an innocent moment with two girls smiling near a window, but it hides something terrifying. Behind them, a dark figure appears, with fixed eyes and no visible features. Posted on Reddit in the year 2020 as the Haunted Woman, reports suggest that it is the spirit of the children's deceased mother who, according to legends, haunted them for a supposed act of disobedience before her death.